Sometimes technology is a wonderful thing. So I was definitely giving you some insights onto some of the things that I've been involved in and things in that space. So I actually helped a friend of mine that was running for Man of the Year up there in the Pennsylvania area. So that was my good friend that actually provided that video. But it's definitely a moving video and one that I sometimes use just to let folks know about the great work that is going on that LLS is doing. So he's actually running for LLS Man of the Year and all in that kind of space. So Tim Sohn is a good friend of mine and has appeared on the online dinner party in the past. So definitely was glad to be involved in that effort. And I'll actually be helping Phil, who is a kidney transplant survivor, in his efforts to do something similar on this particular year, the year that we're in, 2023, and all in those lanes. But I've got a couple of amazing guests. We might see some others up here as well. I don't know. A lot of us grew up watching a certain character, and I used to tease him because I was like, we're not going to have that version on, but we're going to have our own version of 007. So we've got James Bond, James I. Bond, who is involved in the whole nature of getting people to understand that they can persuade and that they can do that thing in persuasion. Because I know a lot of us, myself included, don't consider ourselves the great salespeople. But James is like, no, you can probably be a great salesperson. And somehow I persuaded to get him on this show. He was asking me earlier what was for dessert because it is the online dinner party and all in those lines. I'm still trying to figure out what's going to be for dinner. It might be chicken because it was chicken yesterday, or it might be pizza because it was pizza the day before. So what's actually going to be on the dinner plate before I have to go to my cultural art job that I'll be going to this evening? That'll be a good question. And I told him, one great dessert is apple pie. There's also good ice cream and a number of other things that could be for dessert. But maybe today's dessert will be an apple pie, depending on where I go and all along those lines. So I'm going to bring on James I. Bond, and I'm sure he gets teased all the time about that 007 line and all in that space. But he's got that brain glue, and we also know that we oftentimes don't use the true amount of the power that we have in our brain. I understand that the brain is almost as even more capable than some of the computers that are out there, but we only use a small percentage of our brain power. And I'm thinking that's something that you address as well, as you're getting people to understand that maybe they are able to persuade more than they think they can persuade. I know that there were some things that you asked as to what they have in common, and I was even trying to figure that out because I know one of them was a thing that is a lot of folks think about because they think about a certain trial that went on and that whole notion about acquitting and all in that space. So definitely that was a persuasion tactic. And I do know that here in Durham, where I'm at, they tried to use a bat defense as part of the persuasion and all in those lines, because they tried to say that it actually knew both the accused as well as the person that was the victim, because they actually worked at the art council when I was there, the victim that is, and they were on the board. But I do remember that they were claiming that a bat knocked them down and not the person that was accused of the crime, and all in that space. But James, if you'll share a little bit, and I'm going to bring in Dr. Sarah as well, some of the things that you've got going on. And of course, I do have a number of questions around persuasion, because like I said, I was actually just talking to a friend of mine earlier, and we both say that we are not the best salespeople in the world. And sometimes we have to hire people that are salespeople because we don't consider that one of our strong suits, even though we have a company that needs salespeople on a regular basis, that being the company Max Distro and all in that space. Because our notion is that a lot of people are in the podcasting world that should be live streamers or should be using that lane, and a lot of live streamers should probably be using podcasting. So they're not necessarily maximizing their message. They might be going in just the Facebook or the YouTube lanes, but they're not maximizing the message. So that is when my friend Nicole Maxwell created the company Max Distro, and I am glad to be the business partner in that venture. But I was just wondering if you could share a little bit about persuasion and a little bit about your thoughts around that, because I know that I'm just using us as an example, but a lot of folks don't feel that they are the best at sales, even though we oftentimes have to sell on a regular basis. I know I still have to make sales to my mom and to some degree my dad, because both of them are still living. And even though I'm 60, there are times that I need them to help me out in whatever lane, whether that's advice, whether that's financial situations, or a number of other things. So you do have to still persuade them if you're going to be asking them to do this. And sometimes there's not much for persuasion because you're going to look out for their own and all in that space. But I'm just wondering your notions around persuasion and some of your thoughts around that.
Well, we're always Thanks for having me, Mark. And I always feel like, mark your calendar. This is going to be a great talk. Great time. Um, I'm a logical person, as I believe you are also.
Yes.
And I learned early on that logic is the enemy of persuasion in some respects because it triggers a different part of the brain.
Mhm.
Okay. And I used to have an advertising agency in Montreal. I'm originally from Montreal, but I live in Southern California now. And we did really well focusing on logic, and we won major clients. And then I saw the ad for the anti-drug campaign. We actually had a chance to win it. We had a really powerful logical reason why people shouldn't do drugs. And then we saw the ad that had the guy holding an egg
Mhm.
over a sizzling frying pan and said, "This is your brain." Then he cracked and dropped the egg into the frying pan and said, "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" And I realized this was much more powerful than anything I ever understood. This was emotional selling, and I didn't understand emotional selling, and it scared me. It was fabulous. It was a gazillion times better than the ads that we came up with, even though we had strong logical reasons. And that was about 38 years ago, so I'm old. um, but I started. A friend told me for my advertising company to take every ad. You want to be a really great advertiser. You take every time you see an ad that you love, create a wall and stick it on your wall, and just stick them all over your wall. Don't overanalyze them; just stick them on your wall. And then what happens is, if you look at it every day and just take it in emotionally, you'll eventually start creating ads that are just like that. And you'll put them on the wall also. Well, with "This is your brain on drugs. Any questions?" I realized, let me do the same thing. Let me create a box. And then every time I see something that's profound or somebody says something that's profound, let me put it in the box. I'm not going to overanalyze it. I want to understand it. Well, after about like 10 or 15 years, about 12 years, I started taking them out and going through all these different things. Sometimes somebody would say something really profound, like Malcolm X said, "We didn't land on Plymouth Rock; the rock landed on us." I thought, like, wow, what a great line. He said, "If you, let me think of what he said. If you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything."
Right.
And it was really powerful. And I said, like, how do you come up with those? Does it just come out of your mind? And it turns out that I discovered this thing that's so powerful, it's so mind-blowing, that people are changing the way they're doing advertising or selling their ideas. And this doesn't apply just to selling products and services and stuff like that. Civil rights activists use it.
Mhm.
U.S. presidents use it. Comedians use it. Okay. And it's so John Gray was telling me that he wrote a book called Men and Women in Relationships. It's really a fabulous book. And he
Yeah.
sold a few thousand copies. But he was in a conference, talking about his book. And then he said something, and all the women in the room laughed. And all the men turned to the women and went like, "What was so funny about that? Why are you laughing?" And they realized, as he was saying, see, men and women are different. They laugh at different things. We are different. And one of the women said, "Yeah, men are like they're from a different planet. What planet do you think men are from?" And he said, "I guess men are from Mars." And they
Right.
laughed hysterically. Well, when he got home, he said, "Well, if men are from Mars, where are women from? I guess women are from Venus, the god of love. So what happens if I change the title of my book to Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus?" And then go through this book and just change, just put little comments about Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus throughout the book, but keep the same book. Listen to what happened.
That book was a tremendous bestseller and everything. I'm actually going to bring in some of our
He
other guests
sold
as well.
he sold 50 million copies.
Yeah, he sold a bunch of copies. But one of the things that you bring up, and I definitely want to bring up Sarah Lou as well. And I think I've got some other folks that I'm going to bring in as in that space. But one of the things that I've oftentimes wondered about, and you actually bring it up as one of your talking point, is that folks that are very logical apparently have a disadvantage in selling. I think that might be part of my problem is that I can be maybe a little bit overly logical. So I just wondered if you could explain that because it does seem like maybe we are overthinking the selling process, or maybe it's in some of those emotional brain shifters that you mentioned. But what is it about folks that are thinking in things in that logical lane that give them that disadvantage in selling? Is it that notion of overthinking?
Yes, people, a, but there's another reason also. We buy for emotional reasons. We make decisions for emotional reasons. You know, everybody doesn't buy the oldest, crappiest car out there. We buy cars and wear clothes and things because there are emotional reasons why we do that. There's something called Hebb's law. He's a neuroscientist, and Hebb's law is, he has this quote. He says, neurons, the brain's neurons that fire together wire together. And that means if you can trigger different parts of the brain when you're describing something, then it becomes easier to relate to and remember and stick to the brain like glue. So I'll give you an example. Rocky Road ice cream.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Rocky Road ice cream uses three powerful brain glue tools. Okay. The first one is alliteration. It's a repeating sound. Rocky Road. If you think of alliteration, think of all the companies that use alliteration: Coca-Cola, Best Buy, PayPal, TikTok, Dunkin' Donuts, Jelly Belly, Burt's Bees. Okay. So alliteration, when we hear a repeating sound, it sticks to the brain. It triggers a different part of the brain besides the listening, you know, transferring the words and understanding the words. It also goes, oh, wow, here's another part of the brain also. And because it triggers a different part of the brain, it activates it and makes people more willing to buy it. It's really
So
powerful.
Jim. So my question then is based on some of the things that you sent over in terms of the presentations and everything. I'm assuming that one of those alliterations is what you are referring to, and I'm not sure because I'm asking about the third one because that's the one I was referring to. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. That is definitely a form of rhyming alliteration, and definitely there's a product name that I was not familiar with called the Squatty Potty that you mentioned. But what is the alliteration in Marilyn Monroe's beauty mark? Because all I know is she had a beauty
Well,
mark,
there
but I
are
don't know what
three.
the alliteration was in what the beauty mark was.
There are three pieces. Okay, the first one is well, the two main pieces. The first one is um, something that's called redintegration, which is the brain's need for completion. Okay, what's the most powerful tool of human interaction that exists? I'm using it now, aren't I? Can you tell
Yeah.
what I'm doing? I'm
Mhm.
asking questions, aren't I?
Right.
So alliteration is the need for completion. If you hear something, you hear a question, you want to answer it. Okay, that's why we watch crappy movies to the end, because they, you know, my wife is sitting and watching this movie. I said, "What's the movie?" Like, "Oh, it's stupid." Well, why are you watching it? Well, I want to see how it turns out. Okay, so that's the first piece, which is, it's like symmetry. Okay, redintegration is, if we hear something, you know we want to see it completed. Okay, so then there's something called asymmetry. So
Mhm.
redintegration is like symmetry. You know, like if you see this part, you have to see that part. But there's something called asymmetry also, which is, you can you prepare people for something and then you give them a different answer. I'll give you a joke. Um, Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, congratulations.
Right.
Okay. A lot of us think fool me twice, shame on me. Okay. And so if comedians use it all the time because they twist it.
Yeah.
Well,
They definitely.
asymmetry works with Marilyn Monroe. Okay. Marilyn Monroe loved this woman named Jean Harlow, who was
Mhm.
before her, who was earlier. Okay. And Jean Harlow, Marilyn changed her name. She was Norma Jean. She changed it to Jean Harlow, to Marilyn Monroe, excuse me, which is alliteration, by the way, Marilyn Monroe. And the second thing she did was she dyed her hair platinum blonde. She actually had the woman that dyed Jean Harlow's hair to dye her hair platinum blonde. But as she was watching Jean Harlow in photographs of Jean Harlow in movies, she noticed that she'd have a beauty mark on her face, but sometimes it would be on her chin and not on her face. And she went, well, wait a second. You know, is that really a beauty mark? And Marilyn had a beauty mark. She has a birthmark on her face, but she would cover it up with makeup. But then she went, wait a second, is Jean Harlow bringing attention to her face by putting a beauty mark on it? Huh, interesting. So she started darkening the beauty mark on her face in the movie. In one of the movies she did, Marilyn Monroe, what she did was she covered up that beauty mark and she put a beauty mark on her chin just to have fun with the audience. Okay.
Oh.
But what she recognized was, if you put a beauty mark on your face, it actually brings attention to your face. So
Mhm.
Cindy Crawford is a good example. A lot of famous people are like this. Cindy Crawford is a supermodel, and she has a beauty mark on the left side of her above her lip. And when she was a little kid, she would beg her mom, please, mom, can you take me to the doctor and get this removed? Well, now she says, my mom wouldn't do that. And I'm so happy she didn't because I believe the beauty mark on my face is one of the reasons why I became a supermodel. So whoever
Yeah,
thought of
it's interesting you say that because actually a friend of mine, Renee Daughtry, is actually has a company and is actually called Asymmetry. Only he spells it AI Symmetry, and part of that is trying to get young folks, particularly in the minority community, to understand one the history of some of the folks that have done some great work in technology and in computer fields, including the invention of search engines like Archie and including things like GPS and a number of other things. But he's also getting some of these young kids to learn about coding and around drones and a number of other things. So yes, he actually is a Cisco engineer, but he works for his own company, which is AI Symmetry, but it is pronounced asymmetry and all into that way. So he's definitely doing that kind of work and amazing work in that lane and is definitely getting kids to understand what they could be recognizing as part of their greatness. So I'm going to bring in Dr. Lou, and I've definitely got some other conversation I want to share as well. Dr. Lou, glad that you are here as well. If you want to share a little bit about your background, because I know that you are in the immigration space, but you are also a motivational speaker of your own right as well. So I'd love to hear some of your story also, and then we'll get into some more of this conversation.
Hi, how are you? My name is Dr. Sarah Yu. I am an immigrant from Seoul, Korea. My age 24 years. After that, I start my fintech company. That time is, no one really had a fintech industry. So I working world number one credit card processing company, NPC, Bentibu. Now merging neither WorldPay by FIS, as well as I working top 10 different company, First Data, as well as Bank of America, Chase. So financial industry technology I learning 28 years, as well as several legal, I'm an expert legal immigration, as well as business legal service company CEO. As well as I'm a real estate brokerage and construction develop company CEO. I do three companies same time together. A little bit later, I open legal company. So I'm expert about IT field, fintech company, as well as expert many and I studied at Harvard Business School and studied Harvard Graduation School and learning for school leadership. I'm a principal MIT, Meridian Institute of Technology, principal and CEO, as well as I studied at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government 2 year leadership of public policy and the public service. And I'm learning U.S. Senate. I learned already 2020 Congress to Stuttgart and 2022 is learned to Senate California and now it's coming 2024 learn Senate in California. Yeah, thank you for inviting me here.
No, glad you definitely do it. One of the things I would actually love to hear from both of you that Jim, not Jim, Nick Palvedo, who's one of the founders, mentioned because we actually had a gentleman on from Texas earlier on our news show who is a real estate developer and all in that space. And he actually started as a young man doing lawns and other landscape kind of thing, and then eventually went into mortgages, and then from there he went into real estate. Actually made a lot of money, then lost that money, and was actually at rock bottom, literally at the point of almost ready to take his life and all of that. But now he has realized that he had to get over those fears and depend on his faith and a number of other things. And now he has rebuilt his career and is back to being a well known person in that space of providing housing for some that are in less than perfect financial conditions and all in that kind of way. But he's definitely doing some affordable housing in both Texas, Wisconsin, and a number of other places. But what Nick had asked him was how much of a day it takes to be an entrepreneur. And, the answer is usually that it's not 40 hours a week. So I'll start with you, Jim, and then I definitely love to hear from Miss Lou as well. I'm thinking that these are not things that you can do in the shortness of the day, and you sometimes have to sacrifice time and maybe even sometimes sacrifice relationships in order to get these successes that we are trying to have and everything. And sometimes that can be one of the things that turns people away from entrepreneurship and can be a non-persuasion skill. But I just wondered your thoughts around that, Jim. And do you find that you are able to engage in some of your leisure things that you like to do, or do you find that you wind up being, as many successful people are, a workaholic? And I'm not going to say that I'm not a workaholic as well, because I do know that I do a number of things and that that can be a serious issue in our entrepreneurial lanes. But I'd just love to hear your thoughts as to how you deal with it and what you even do when you're talking, because I saw some of these lists of folks that you have worked with that at one time or another includes Steve Jobs, Warren Buffett, that great rapper Snoop Dogg, as well as certain U.S. presidents, even though you don't name which ones those were and everything. But I'm thinking that they've all told you that they probably work multiple hours and more than the average person. But I was just wondering your take on that.
Well, and I do a lot of workshops and seminars for the Small Business Administration too. And I think it's one of the things that you have to recognize is when you work for yourself, you're going to spend a lot more time doing it, and you're awake and asleep. You can, I mean, people, especially with our phones, so we're going to be going to bed, we're going to be doing computer stuff and everything. And that's why what's really important is that you're doing something that you're passionate about. Because if you do something you're passionate about, then you're going to, I mean, I love brain glue. I mean, I love psychology. I love, business. I love entrepreneurs. And so we'll be in a grocery store, and then we'll be talking to somebody in a grocery store, and suddenly we have this whole conversation. And I think that's the key, is you have to recognize that when you're in business, you're going to be spending a lot more time than when you're, because this is your thing. And so make sure you're doing something that you're passionate about. It's too easy for us to get hooked into doing something we weren't really passionate about it, but I think, this is a great time to be in business for yourself, because you can be online. You can, I used to have to travel a lot. I don't have to travel that much anymore. I do webinars and things like that online. But if you're passionate about it, two things are going to happen. One is you're going to start discovering stuff that you wouldn't discover if you just had a job. But the other thing is that you're going to also, and so I started something called the Father-Daughter Project before I focused on brain glue. And I recognized I have a son and 3 daughters, and my middle daughter when she was 22, she was the quiet one. And I realized that my career got in the way of me interacting with her and learning what she's about and knowing her actually. And, I spent a lot of time, I actually interviewed lots of fathers of daughters to understand how to be a better father of my daughter. But I realized that, I'm so used to being in business, and I've been a consultant for a long time, that I would be giving advice instead of listening. And I think, especially if you're talking about a family member or somebody that's important to you, we need to just not try to solve their problems. We're guys, especially, Mark. I mean, guys love to solve problems. That's what we do. We're problem solvers. Right. And it's one of the hardest things, but it's one of the most important things to do, is to, especially family members, especially females, we want to listen and not try to solve their problems all the time, because often they just want to, share. I had this friend who would say, when I get home, his wife doesn't work. And so he said, when I get home, I force myself to sit on a couch and say, so tell me how your day was. And then I am quiet for an hour. And all of us went, really? You're quiet for an hour? He says, nope, I just let her talk. There's a hockey game on or a football game on. I want to watch it, but no, I'm going to sit there for an hour and just listen. And there's a powerful lesson in that, I think.
No, definitely. What are some of the things, Jim, and then I definitely want to get to Dr. Lou as well, that you think that you have learned from some of these celebrities? I mentioned some of those that you have worked with and everything, and I'm thinking that they might have some common messages, because you've had the pleasure of talking to some of these folks that not everybody has the ability to get on their Rolodex or on their phone lines and everything. And I'm thinking that in your conversations, whether you're talking about brain glue or whether you're giving them advice, that there might be some commonalities in what has made these folks successful, whether it's a Warren Buffett, as I said earlier, or a Snoop Dogg, and there are probably a number of others that you have worked with. But what is the common thread that you have seen among these tremendously successful folks?
passion, passion, clearly passion. I mean, I was friends with Laura Ziskin. Laura Ziskin produced The Pretty Woman, the movie. What About Bog the Doctor? She produced the Spider-Man movies, the first ones that became massively famous. Her husband actually wrote the screenplays for it. He used to be in Saturday Night Live, or as one of the creators of Saturday Night Live. And I remember we were sitting there. My son was in the movies when he was young, ages ago, and I'm sitting there with the writer, this guy who eventually, won the Academy Award and all kinds of stuff. And I said, why are you? He wanted to change the title. The title was Hero, the movie Hero with Dustin Hoffman, Gina Davis, and Andy Garcia. And he's changing the title. I said, why are you changing the title? We want heroes. Don't you understand it? And I didn't know who Laura was, but she's like under this big canopy and she's not shaking her head. Like she's saying, yeah, I agree. And so kind of egged me on. But I realized after, because she asked me, can you help me finish? We're trying to figure out the end of the movie. And I wanted, your opinions and maybe you can brainstorm with us. And I said, well, why me? Why would you listen to me? She said, there are two types of people that come to California to movies. People that come here because they've screwed people across the country and they want to come here because nobody knows them. And there are people who are passionate about what they do. You're passionate, you're honest, and your passion makes you a real person. And that's who we want to connect with, is real people. And I think that with all, when I first met Dustin Hoffman, I was like, for him, he was such a big star. I couldn't, I didn't know what to say. But once I got past that, they want to talk to real people, normal people, because they're so used to people just trying to schmooze up to them. Oh, wow, Warren Buffett's really famous and all that stuff. And say, can I take a picture with you and all that stuff? That they miss being with normal people, if that makes sense. But they're passionate. And if you have passion, then you can connect with them. It's actually really easy to connect with them because they want someone that they can relate to who's passionate. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Dr. Sarah Lou and everything, I also understand that you have jumped in that passion lane as well. So I definitely want to hear more about this, because it is my understanding that you aren't just involved in the fintech space, but you have also run a couple of nonprofits. And I want to say that you had a little bit of the political run as well. So I just wondered if you could share a little bit about that passion as well, because definitely we do know that a lot of folks are hearing different communities that are trying to get their voices heard, whether that's in the Asian community or whether that's in the African American community, and they aren't always from the Democratic side. There are two folks from both party sides as well. So I just wondered if you could share a little bit about what you were doing in that space and some of the issues that you were concerned around just in general.
I think the author James, Bond's explanation is very clearly people's passions bring change to this world. So I have my passion is because learning as an entrepreneur, CEO of several company, we have passions, and as well as after passions, as I'm also two nonprofit CEO of founder of the Global Jesus Mission Church, or founder of Meridian Wish Foundation, Meridian Business Legal Investment Wish Foundation. So because of those entrepreneurships, not only solving our own problems, solving to others, people, and as well as communities. So my passion is people, they have passion, should change it to more like expert, more like go to the compassion. So bring compassion to me. It's not only compassion is 100%, but we have empathy. All the issues, facing like COVID-19. I see the many, the business closed, and then many people lay off. So that's why I decided to learn the U.S. Congress, as well as I'm 30 years educator, second generations. Even I was a high school student. I was devoted my life to Sunday school assistant teacher, as well as 19 years old. I went semester, University of Theology, and then I served God at my age 19 years old. So to me, it's a very special background than other entrepreneur, because I when I was in when I was in college, even I served as English teacher, mathematics teacher, and then as well as a non-profit Christian Owners Association worship leaders. You know that the because of people many because of many people they I wrote to the PhD thesis for the study about causal relationship marketing because we have a company. The company should bring our passion to compassion, empathy to serve community. So that's why even I take 2 years wrote those deeds causal relationship marketing, which is we have our own company, how we can bring people to to cause relationship to other people involving like example, I have my flyer in fintech. I put in all there. If they open account need us, we donation to our nonprofit, and those money we are training entrepreneur, business owners, and as well as we training those job seekers as well as about legal and investment and business. So those our passions make with compassion and empathy can able to not only many people they are learning business but only just supply for the our needed compassions make a profit. But I my goal is really learning business is different than other because I'm a pastor. I'm a senior. I'm a CEO of several company. My main missions is supporting community. It passions, it compassions, empathy. Bring me to not only just a business learning fintech or business for credit card and learning schools as well as real estate landlord tenant problem. We have so many landlord tenant problem. I'm dealing legal service for older evictions matters. We have facing so many issues in our life through my business. So that's why not only limited my my compassion inside of my business, bring to outside, and then learning for a number of few years. And I have suddenly, I have a compassion to learn U.S. Senate because of, even we are learning many business, many non-profit, the main issues solution is that political leaders can solve many issues than us. So that's why my compassion, my empathy go to learning even U.S. Senate solving California and U.S. Problems. So I think the entrepreneurships. I'm like. I will publish this year. I already finished my two books. One is the story of Dr. Sarah Yu immigration and business. Dr. Sarah Yu story. One another is entrepreneurship. So not only just ourselves to we needed to really support others through writing the books, publish books. So my desire to right now is not just only learning business to supply and then support, and I want to support community. That's why my compassion is become passion become compassion, and now it's empathy. So that's my goal. Thank you. Yeah.
No problem. That definitely makes a lot of sense. For both of you, and I'll talk about with Jim. One of the things that has surprised me is how much. Speaking of compassion, there is a issue around even homelessness in the United States. I know it's a global problem, but it's definitely one even here. And I was actually had a show that I produced that is not me being the host, but it's actually Sharon Campbell, and she had a person that was in from the Fayetteville Pact, and they were talking about how literally if you are in a car or even if you're in some of those tent cities, and we even have tent cities here in Durham, that is not necessarily considered part of the homeless population because you do have some place that you are residing, even though I would argue that it's not necessarily a house, but according to the government statistics and the way the government defines it, it is still considered some form of housing if you are standing in a car or a van or some of these tent cities and all in that space. But both of y'all are on the West Coast from what I'm hearing and everything. So I was wondering, is that something that you are overly concerned about in that space? And I did have a question about Canada. I'd love to hear Jim's thoughts about, as you are originally from Canada and did some work there. We have a guest that makes a statement that I don't know that I necessarily agree with, but I'll state his thesis, and then I'll hear if you think that it is correct or not. But before I get to that, what is your thoughts around this nature of homelessness, and whether it's in North Carolina where I'm at, or in California where y'all are at, in terms of, is it something that we need to be dealing with and concerned about from a political and a social issue standpoint?
I think absolutely. I think so. I'm a baby boomer, and baby boomers focused on, and they're one of the first generations to do this, is how do we make the world better than leave the world better than we found it?
Right.
You know, so don't just, if you're trying to make money, don't just try to make money, but you know, there's a famous George Eastman founded Eastman Kodak ages ago, and he was the richest man in the world, on the planet at that time. And then he shot himself, and he said, "My work is done." Well, he's an idiot. He was an idiot, because, you know, if you decided you're going to try to change the world with all your wealth and make a difference, then your work would never be done. You know, I mean, if you're so focused on yourself and you're selfish, then yeah, your work is going to be done. You make a lot of money, you're going to be successful. See ya, you know. But I think it's important for us to leave the world a little better than we found it, or a lot better, like Steve Jobs did. But, you know, but you want to, I think when you look at your life, when you look at the world from that standpoint, I mean, homelessness is hard. There are so many people. I mean, there are some people who are drug addicts and stuff, and how they became drug addicts, they decided they didn't want responsibility. I understand that. But the majority of people who become drug addicts don't want to become drug addicts. The majority of people who are homeless don't want to be homeless. You know, they want to make a difference. I mean, they want to be able to take care of themselves. And I think that part of the problem is it's scary. I remember we picked up tickets to go to a hockey game. I'm from Montreal, so we're at the hockey at the Staples Center in Los Angeles. And my wife was going to pick me up. She was driving around the corner. And I said, okay, I'm going to just walk. And I started walking underneath one of the overpasses where there's all these homeless people and everything. And as I'm walking through it, you know, and I have good, I could hide fear in my body language and my face, but it was scary walking through this thing. And this one guy looks at me, you know, and I looked down at him and I said, hey, you know, here, and I gave him a buck, you know. But I realized it's scary. We have this separation between us and the homeless people. We think that all of them are, you know, dangerous, when in fact, so many of them, we got, I was in a men's group, and what we did was, we had one of these guys who was homeless, and he told us there's a part of Los Angeles that has all these homeless people because there's some abandoned houses and stuff like that, and abandoned apartment buildings, and a lot of homeless people are there. So we got lunches together. We, there's, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, but, some different things that we got for them and everything else. And we went out there, and there was this one woman, and she had 2 kids, and she came up, and, we would give, hand out the food to everybody, in a package, in a bag for everybody. So I had a whole bag of stuff. And she said, could I have 2? Because I have 2 boys. We said, well, what about you? We'll give you 3. No, it's okay just for them. We knew they were homeless. It was like, no, you're getting 3. You're going to get 1, and you're going to get 1 for each one of your kids. And it made me realize, this is, so many people need our help, need us to reach out and make a difference. And it doesn't just make a difference by giving charity, but by figuring out inner city, how do we help the inner city so we can actually get people on their feet, so they can not be ashamed of their life, because I see people being ashamed. I'm ashamed because I'm homeless. It's not your fault that you're homeless. It's not your fault because, jobs left and businesses left and weird politics and whatever else. And I don't exactly know how, but I know that as I become more successful, and I'm always doing this, that I'm reaching out and making a difference. In fact, I'll give you one last story. So I work with Amgen, the largest biotech company in the world. And I work with this guy who was like the number 3 person at this biotech company. And I focus on personal goals as well as business goals. And I can't say what we did on the business side, but it was really quite dramatic. But on a personal side, he wasn't used to spending time with his kids. And he said, I got a vacation coming up, and I haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. And I want to, I want to go fishing in Canada. There's this one place that's secluded and it's really great. And I want to spend a week doing that. But I should also spend time with my 12-year-old son because I haven't done anything, spend time with him. And I don't know which one to do. And we're all at the table thinking, duh, why don't you take your son fishing with you? And so he said, why don't you take your son fishing with you? And he goes like, oh, I never thought of that, huh? And he did. And when he took his son fishing, when he came back, they said, "What the heck did you do to Ed?" I said, "Why? Sorry." And they said, "Well, we can't get him to shut up talking about his son. His son is amazing." This is what happened, okay?
Yeah, that's
He
amazing.
decided to retire. Well, just for a second, he decided to retire from this massive company, wealthy, and he moved his family with his kids to Africa. They adopted a village in Africa, and he said, "The reason I did this is because I don't want my kids to be, I'm rich, so they're going to be rich, and that's it. I want them to understand service." And the only way they're going to understand service is not theoretically. We're going to move to Africa. We're going to we found a village that we can work with. We're going to adopt the kids. We're going to build a school. We're going to do all those things. And that's going to help them, it's going to help my kids want to make a difference and change lives. And to me, it was so profound. It was just, so powerful. We need more of us doing that, where we're reaching out and trying to make a difference in people's lives. Does that make sense?
It makes a lot of sense. A lot of sense for sure. Dr. Liu, I know you're also involved in the real estate space. So I just wondering, are you seeing enough of the minority community doing enough to develop real estate? I do know that there are certain communities, I would argue the Asian community is a prime example of it, that have done a good job of getting some real estate property and maintaining that property and even working as a group together. And I've seen that in some of the African investors as well, not as much as I would like to see in the African American community, even though there was historical Black Wall Streets throughout the country, but I'm not seeing enough of it currently. But I'm just wondering your take on the real estate and maybe ways that can be used to help the homeless as well. Because like I said, the gentleman that we had on the news show earlier today is doing some of that work in Texas, Wisconsin, and maybe even doing some in California, because I know he's doing it in a variety of states around the country. But I was just wondering your take on the homeless and whether the real estate space can help in that, because I know a lot of people complain around gentrification and a number of other things when they think about real estate.
Oh, you're on mute.
You're on mute, Doctor.
Sorry about that. I think we have three, main issues at the homeless. One is, people. My policy, three things. One is, A is able to work. They become homeless. B, first A is able to work. B is become able to work. C is cannot able to work. So A is able to work is they are healthy, they have educated, even like many, attorney or even many skillable people, they are in become homeless because of economic conditions. Many, So and B, be able to mean is that they don't have any skill, but they are healthy. We can make them to job training. And as well as C is cannot able to because they have a clinical disease like mental illness, like drug abuse. So we have those three catalogs. So even we saw those three catalogs as well as dwelling, right? People we needed to every day we need to have the clothing and eating and housing, right? So the things is most even we have solving all the problems. Most I think the President Bush was emphasized is affordable housing. He issues many batches, thousand batches. And then very important things we need to solve those affordable housing real estate factor. The things is our land is limited, and then as well as we have a zoning regulations, residence, multi-family zones, commercial zones, industrial zones. So my policy I started for the homeless because we have rent controls. Those many homes. I've been like apartment management brokerage, CEO management. So we have apartment. We have the tenant and landlord rules. But the things is we have limited people living in our units. So I think because of we have three problems. One thing there is not enough place to build more like affordable housing. Second, even we build those houses because of many shelter not secure, not compared to the homeless people. So the homeless people, they don't want to go to there. And third things is the we spending so million dollars for those homeless problem, for even build those affordable housing. The things is my focus on my policies. We need job creation for the homeless, because even with spending ABC able to workers, there is so many homeless population, they can able to work and become able to work. So we are focused on as well as we should those able to work people and become able to work people, they can able to work to overcome those struggle for the homeless problem. So now is many government and city, because all the develop homeless problems. Now federal matter is city and state matter. Most funds coming city and states. We don't have enough funds for the all the affordable housing. You need more. As well as I think that is we have a problem right now. So I think as I'm a politic and social, and then politic matters, we should have a good policy for the real estate field, especially affordable housing is feasible in industry, because many policy we made is not feasible for the employment on our real organization, like a builder or like suppliers who really wanted to many affordable housing. They are not supported good funding, because many politics said I want to build the affordable housing until 2030. Many, but who gonna do it? Because so short. They are like political. There is a political, their period like 4 years. After they make policy, I'll make affordable housing for the homeless, but and after 4 years, they are no more there. So, we have as well as we have a civil disagreement for Democratic and Republican. Their issue is focused on different way to, so we have to have a bipartisan policy to support those those building for the affordable housing. So the most important things is I think make those able to and become able to those population of homeless. We need job training, then because we put the thousand million billion money spending, city workers spending for those projects, but end up just giving dwelling and food and the medical. They are not, focused on really rehabilitation their life. They need to change their life to be able to work, because when they able to work, they can make money to pay independent. Even they can serve in a community through their life to those experience be homeless. So my entrepreneur support and then homeless solution issue is I think I was study at the Harvard Business School and Harvard Kennedy School, as well as Harvard graduation education, even Harvard Law School. I've been almost 4 or 5 years after COVID coming. I stay like full time study at 5 years. I study all the issues, homeless, many issues from Kennedy schools. The things is, we need a really politics leadership, right? Because we cannot see the people's leadership, those commitment. We need a really leadership have the commitment to enjoyable to support people, community homeless problems. So I think that we need to really find out to do the solution of long-term solution to training people, get their jobs, during those have even they stay at their shelter or affordable housing. More housing we needed to supply. We have the something. I think I was planned to call to. I'm in Beverly Hills. My business all in Beverly Hills. One of I learning U.S. Congress Senate. I was calling to big apartment to landlord and ask them to research how they're willing to solve homeless problem. Maybe there are some unit, like maybe they have a 100 unit apartment, maybe 10 unit, make affordable, affordable, then able to early retire. Like example, in Beverly Hills, many elderly, people, so they want to live the same life after elderly, but they move to another location. They have to leave Beverly Hills because they don't have enough income. So I think that we should have some kind of current, apartment owner or current building owners, maybe participation to make their own unit to affordable housing, need a maybe tax cut or need some kind of benefit for them. Yeah, I think that that is very important to do.
Mark, I guess you're off that.
Maybe. Yeah.
Mark, okay. Can I comment on this a little bit?
Yeah, I definitely want you to comment
So
on that as well, because definitely I thought that Dr. Lou brought up some very interesting points. I definitely want to hear your comments, but when we come back, I also want to hear her thoughts around more STEM workers. And this is Women's Appreciation Month, and I do know that part of what her platform was around women job creation and maybe even breaking some of that pay gap that exists between women and men. So definitely, I do want to hear from you, Mr. Bond. So if you want to definitely allude, and then I want to hear from her about some of the things around STEM and women
well,
job creation.
I have two problems, and the first problem is I remember on NPR they talked about it a few years ago, and they said they got the county of Los Angeles got $100 million to build low income houses. Okay, after 10 years, guess how many they built? Zero.
Zero. Wow.
Where'd all the money go? It went to consultants. Okay, it was just annoying. It's like they were supposed to be building all this low-income housing, but no, we're going to hire a friend here, a friend there, and everything else. I have this a friend that I work with. I help because I do a lot of volunteer work with the Small Business Administration. He's this black guy who was the principal of a school in Compton, which is a tough area of Los Angeles. And he invented this process that was profound that got these poor kids doing fantastic in school. And so a bunch of friends who are in politics said, you need to come to Congress and we're going to give you some money. You have to present it and all that stuff. We're going to give you some money. And then you need to start doing this across America. Okay. Okay. And so come to Congress and we'll raise like $5 million. And why don't we pick Washington, D.C., which has the worst school system in the country. And then you can apply it there first. He says, that's great. He spent 2 years. He raised $5 million for this program. He went to the school district in Washington, D.C., and the head of the school district, this black woman, and I'm saying black because I want you to understand, he's saying, don't we want to make a difference to the inner cities? Right. She said, no, we took the money. We're going to use it for something else. He said, no, you don't understand. I raised the money on purpose. Congress agreed to it so we can use it for this. So we can use it to build the school system. She said, I don't care. I'm the head supervisor of the school district, and I get to use the money any way I want. See you later. And he said, don't you care about the inner city? He said, don't tell me what to do. It's like, we've got such a battle between people that want to make a difference and people that don't care.
Yeah, that's very true. We definitely have that attitude, and there's a lot of folks that don't care, or like you said, they take the money and they abuse the money, or they don't actually use the money for what it is supposed to be used for. I've had some conversations around that, including some folks that are making promises, and we need to see if they're going to actually deliver on the promises, because you can make promises but not deliver on them. So there are some organizations, and my mom was actually very much involved in the nonprofit world and the foundation world. She was actually the first president of the Golden Leaf Foundation, which is some of that tobacco settlement money that was in North Carolina. So definitely I do know, and I've seen some people that have gotten the money and don't necessarily, to your point, Jim, use the money for what it was allocated for. And there have been other cases where people have used the money for something totally different than what it was allocated for, because they might get the money for one thing and then decide that they want to use the money for their own personal gain. So there's got to be a definitely sense of accountability, which is another persuasion tool as well, in my mind, because we got to make sure that folks are being accountable with whatever they are charged to be doing in that space. But Dr. Liu, really quickly, I was wondering your thoughts about the gap in women's pay, and it sounds like you're trying to get some women job creation going. And I also know that there is a push to get more of our kids involved. And I did mention earlier Renee Daughtry and what he's doing with STEM, but there is a push to get more folks into the STEM world, because we do know that we went from the agricultural age to the industrial age, and I would say that we're now in the computer and the STEM age. So we need to make sure that our kids know about augmented reality, virtual reality, and a number of the other things that STEM is at the forefront of. Sometimes I'm a little worried about it because I know some kids that might be getting a little too happy with Chat GPT, and that might be writing their papers and all in that space. But that's that whole accountability question as well.
Okay, my education policy, especially STEM education, is we need to start early, like science, technology, engineering, mathematics. So many schools, there are shortage in 9 hours apply for the science education, and as well as mathematics and technology, and as well as engineering. So because of why early age is so important, my one of my policy, because I've been so many years afternoon school English teachers, as well as I'm a education pastor. We have in church, we have language like Korean and Korean language school, as well as piano, as well as many other, you know, uh, second level of education we are learning. So the kids is not just only knowledge, no, just putting the knowledge, because the science and engineering and technology, as well as those mathematics, make more creative, world, and then as well as they can find out their talent, to be future leaders. Like I want to be a scientist, I want to be engineering, I want to be technology, and I want to be, mathematics, some kind of their fields they can learning more, like benefit early age educations, find out their talent, as well as nowadays, we need more like STEM workers, like college student, because we need also supporting college STEM education, because of many, the level of technology workers shortage. So we are bringing from overseas, from many H-1 visa, student to become STEM workers, instead our own country citizens, because we are shortage. So I think that we should support those, STEM education as much as to create more jobs, because we shortage. I've been like 8 years in Silicon Valley in San Jose. I learning business. There is many IT business over there. Next to my office there is Apple. Apple. There is many companies. There is learning the business, IT business together. So there's Mecca in the Silicon Valleys, Google's and Yahoo's, as well as many PayPal's. They are all the fintech companies. I've been together. We have so many meetings, order from the Berkeley, as well as Stanford University, past professors. We are getting together to today's talking about today's STEM workers many times. So we needed to really support those STEM education early age to creation more jobs, and then make them more happy life. As well as standpoint about woman job creations, because of the things we need training to parents early age, because boy and girls discrimination in early age, because most in maybe America is not that much, most underdeveloped countries like India or many countries, they are discrimination by their parents, girls, because they don't have enough funds. They bring the kids, boys first, their school higher levels, and the girl is stay home and just cooking, make. So not only in America, also many boy go to the college after graduation high school, and girl is not going to college less than boys. So we need training those parents because of equal opportunity give boy and girls. As well as why parents those decided to girls not going to and boys, and because economic there is economic benefit because girls when they graduation college, girls not higher job position than boys. Like boys more like had a more job creation opportunities. Boy has more opportunity. That's why parents decide already in house early age. I'm going to make my son needs to be go to the school is a higher school like even PhD. So we need training early age to parents first, as well as ours. We need policy change because of many job creations, entrepreneurs, discrimination in the even same level of workers, same skill, same degree, same technology they have. Entrepreneur job creations, they don't give it to place, they don't give it to them much job to the woman than men because there's as well as women had a baby, they have a more gaps between working continuously, many lay off during those have a baby. So we needed to really parent educations. Second, the policy need to change, and we have equal opportunity to women and the men. So women has a more than 10 different discrimination at the work, at the house, even at the house, boy and ladies, always less benefit than, men and boys. So we need a creation more opportunity job creation because why that happened because women, I focus on my non-profit, my parents focus on get the job to women more because of they don't have independent life. I am so independent even when I was in college. I went to all of the job, English teacher, mathematics teacher, nurse, as well as a Sunday school director. So we need a woman give opportunity. They can do a lot. They can do a lot. They can develop their, a personal talent from God or whatever society. We needed to more place to creation job for women, as well as more support policy as I'm a candidate to support. Women can have a more talent, have a more detail than men. So we need a more like good fact, not disadvantage. People only focus on disadvantage which women had when they hire or when they education. We need to shoot for advantage. What is the advantages women had? A lot of talent, a lot of leaderships, a lot of continuous, a lot of commitment the women can do. So I want to fight for the woman right. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Definitely doing some great work. Hey, Jim and everything. I don't know about you and all in that space, but as I'm hearing Dr. Lou speak, I'm thinking that she has definitely got a lot of the power of persuasion behind her attitudes and behind the things that she is doing. I know that she is, I'm actually a longtime Democrat, but I do listen to Republicans and others, and I think that she's actually running on the Republican ticket if I remember correctly, but it does look like she could probably persuade some of those folks there in California to actually support her and possibly even get that candidacy that she is looking for. But you are the persuasion king or one of the persuasion kings out there. So as you've been listening to her, well, how is she doing in the persuasion lane and all in that space?
Thank you so much.
She's passionate. I think that's the first thing. She's very knowledgeable. I mean, for her to be an advocate for women getting involved in technology in that area, I mean, she's a great role model. I can be a great role model for women. I had ages ago, I remember a woman, there was a woman, I was doing like college work, and I came across this woman who worked at Texas Instruments. She didn't anymore. She started a chocolate shop in Southern California. And it was really cool. She would actually take a photograph of somebody and she would turn it into a cake or cookies with the picture of them on the cookie or cake, which is really cool. But she was telling me that, women have a different perspective on science that's valuable. And she said, you know, her group at the Texas Instruments, because she retired, even though she was in her 30s, she was really young. She had these patents and everything else, but she retired, and her group, the CEO of Texas Instruments, said, you guys have been working on this thing for a long time, whatever this project was, and you couldn't figure something out for 5 years. I'm going to give you like 3 months. And if you can't figure something out in 3 months, then I'm just going to shut down your division. Mm-hmm. And so they freaked out. So she said, 4 of the guys, the scientists, came over to my house and said, could you help us, please? Because you have a different perspective on things. I know you're retired, but could you help us? She said, all right, I'll take a look at it. She said, while she was making pancakes for the kids on Saturday, she went, oh, wait a second. And she figured out this problem that for 5 years they couldn't figure out. Bam. And she gave it to them, and suddenly their division stayed. And the reason is she has a different perspective on how she approaches problems. And so we have this sense that, you know, women have to be like men in how they develop products. They develop totally different ways that they do this stuff that's going to change the world. Steve Jobs isn't the only smart guy who invents new things. It's a lot of women that invents new things also. I think that we focus more on the guys because we're louder. You know, we're a lot louder than the women.
But, no, that's actually interesting you bring that up, because actually the inventor, I mentioned at the beginning, the inventor of GPS was actually Gladys Mae West, I believe is the young lady's name. And she was definitely a African-American woman that has actually invented something that we oftentimes use on a regular basis, whether you use it on your phone, whether you use it in your car, or a number of other spaces. And there are some other women that are in
Hidden Figures, well. One of my favorite movies of all time, Hidden Figures. Did you see that? I mean, like, that's, wow. There's a building named after one of them. I mean, Sister, you know, Miss Johnson. I mean, it's just, you know, we need to learn more about how women have changed the world.
Yeah, but you know, one of the things you mentioned that famous book and everything. And it is a famous book. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. But there was another book that I remember getting. I think it was one of those lovely gifts that folks would give you and I cannot remember the title, but it was basically a book that they handed to you. And I think the title of the book was What Do Men Know About Women and everything. And when you open up the book, it was full of empty
pages. I got a copy of it. I love that book. It's hilarious and it's valid. But a lot of people don't know, you know, the first female millionaire was Sarah Breedlove. And Sarah Breedlove was Madame C.K., I think it's called, or Madame, you know. What she did was she was the daughter of slaves. Mm-hmm. Okay, she was the first one who was the first generation that was free. And she was an entrepreneur. It was wired into her. And she came up with this idea.
C.J. Walker, that's the name.
C.J. Walker. And then she realized that they would put hair dye in their hair to straighten the hair, and it hurt the head, scalp, and it was really painful. And so she did research and found an easier way to do it. And she was, you know, we think of Mary Kay. You know, she was Mary Kay before Mary Kay. She taught women you can be independent. You don't have to depend on a man. I mean, you know, you don't have to just do it that way. You don't have to not depend on a man, but, you know, you can build, you know, you can sell other women. I'm going to show you with my products that you can actually make a difference in the world and be great. And, you know, we don't hear enough about that. You know, I mean,
you know, we don't hear enough about that and everything. I know we're getting ready to wind down because usually the show's anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on what I've got going on in my life and everything. But one of the things I was getting to be curious about is both of you have alluded to faith, and I do hope that both of you will return back in the not too distant future and all of that, but you have alluded to faith, and I was just wondering how important is faith to your own journey and to what you do. So I'll start with you, Dr. Lou, and everything, because I do know that in some of the things that I've read about you, faith does seem to be very important, and definitely Mr. Bond has alluded to it as well. So how important is faith and a belief in a higher power, whatever that higher power may be, to those that are listening, is to your own journey and to your own activities? Because you did mention being an education pastor at the church that you're a part of as well. So how important is that faith journey to you?
I think not only myself, you know, I believe as a conservative, I'm a believing there's conservative value, biblical value. I grew up even early age. You know, I went to Sunday school. As well as I became even early age Sunday school teachers, become compassion. When I was in high school, first grade, I was compassion to God. I want to be pastor. and because of I want to give my life to God. And then after that, I graduation nursing school. After that, I went to exactly Tehan Theology School of University and get a bachelor and master, or also Anyang Theology School as well as Calvin Theology School, bachelor and master for Calvins, as well as I have study UBG a theology school, PhD, postdoctoral biblical preaching. So because it's base is to me it's a life. I went to I'm Korean American, so we have Korean very baseball foundation. We went I early even I'm when I high school. I went every early morning. Go early morning. We have early morning worships, like 5 o'clock. So I spoke, and my life is rule is I go twice a day church. Even in the morning before I go to the school, I go church and pray to God. And when I finish school and come back to to the church and pray to God. So I think my early age, I devote on education, devote on faith. It benefit to a lot because of we have in early age like high school. Whatever you met, what kind of teacher you met, what kind of what kind of person, friends you met, you make self-esteem, self-esteem. So early age, I have a base, and then even supporting Sunday school, as Sunday school teachers, spending a lot of commitment because I have to go school, have a lot of program to supporting church. But my life is when I pray to God in the early morning, I go look at the sky, all the star tell me that you will be great, God will lead you. And I step by step my life living with God until early age, until today is what God give us to message, faith. My maybe this is my strong part as well as my weakness because I'm really depend on God a lot. So I'm I can isolations many other boys, like today's many high school student, and how many people they need to really make self-esteem Facebook. I recommend go to church and learn God, relationship with God and then hear God's voice, then other voice. So it's really even entrepreneurship, even learning U.S. Senate, based on the base conservative value. Why I choose to Republican Party than Democrat? Because who follow God's voice, in Republican, God and country and the family is we are focused on. So that's why I fight for the Republican Party to the biblical values, conservative values. So faith is to me is like my life already devoted on when I was my age 19 is went to the theology schools, study a lot of theology, even more than 12 years, get the PhD is continuously commitment to enjoy those life together with God. So God is a really powerful, almighty God. So my base life is always we have limited, we have suffer, we have torture, but we have a vision in God. God say you go, you learn your sanity. And I don't wanna like just what God say you go, but we have a fully our background, our surround, we need to build relationship with God from bottom of top, so we can have a power from the God, we can isolation for other risk or attack, many today's many far away from biblical values, conservative values, even many pastors they supporting a lot of things to even their pastors. So I'm my baseball life is myself. One thing I can really because God listen our voice, cry out. When I have any problem, I always kneel down to cry out to God, cry out to America, cry out to political leader, cry out to our community, cry out to our family. Suddenly, it answered. Everything answered. I can tell 100% God answers my pray. Even I went to the 2016, I went to Harvard Business School and I prayed to God, I want to come to Harvard to study and business school, law school, and education school and Kennedy School. Suddenly, I forgot 2019, I learning U.S. Senate, U.S. Congress, and God asked me, why don't you apply all those schools? And I admitted everything. And, God is guide us to step by step details, take time, pray in God, and then read Bible. I always, when I was working, why I can do multiple success, because when I was always working, even people they working only like 8 hours. I'm working more than 48 hours. Even when I was young, I don't sleep 4 days. I stay in my office. Working IT company. To because during that working, I'm listening God's word. I am listen those mentors good like Billy Graham sermons. I always listen. Not even today when I cooking, I listen Billy Graham sermon, all the leaders sermon, all the political use as well as all the peaceful background. Those you have you we have 24 hours, but we can using under God's control. We can using not only 24 hours, we can use 72 hours. Nowadays, even media, we can meet many God's message from biblical value we have built. So my fighting for faith is we need to really come back to biblical values, and we have conservative values. That's why my point to we need to follow God. We are creation by God. This is just not choice. This is a commitment. This is we don't have no choice. We should do it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about yourself, Mr. Bond? How important has the faith walk been to you as well?
I'm a born again Christian. About 20 years ago, I recognized that, and I got really excited about my faith. I wrote the book Brain Glue, and people love it, think it's mind blowing. Well, I didn't write it myself. I had Heavenly Father with me, guiding me. He said, "Do you want to do it this way? You want to change these things, okay?" And when you have faith, when you know that Heavenly Father is there for you every step of the way, it changes our ability to do things, to accomplish things in life. I had missionaries that came up to me and they were asking, for some help. And I said, so I used Brain Glue and I said, we need a strong question. So the question is, what do you say to an atheist? What do you say to an atheist? Do you hope you're wrong? Do you hope life had no purpose, you're a freak of nature, and then when you die, you turn to dust, and that's the end of it? Or do you hope there actually was a purpose, there was life before this, and you're going through life because there's a purpose for it, and after life is done, that there's something after? And by doing that and starting with that, especially if it's somebody who's an atheist or just thinking about it, it gets them thinking about, it's interesting. Like, what's your purpose in life? Why are you alive? If you don't have faith, then why are you alive? You're just a freak of nature. So I love scientists because I work a lot with scientists too. And they say, well, I don't know, religious people, you believe in God and everything else. I said, well, you believe in the Big Bang Theory. Yeah, they do. Okay. Think of how idiotic it is. Okay. Nothing existed. And then something happens to the nothing for no apparent reason. And then then the universe exploded out, and then it started creating things in explosion. You think we're nuts? I love, there was a sign that Albert Einstein said that the more you understand science, the more you recognize that God exists. And it's because, there's no logic to Big Bang Theory is stupid. It's stupid. It's like nothing was there and then something happened to nothing. What caused the something to happen to nothing? I mean, come on. But you think we're nuts, right? No, there's such passion that we get to make a difference in people's lives. And when we recognize our purpose in life is, we're not here just to make a bunch of money and then, like, what's his name? Like George Eastman shot himself, like that's it. No, we get a chance to give back. Yes, you want to be ambitious. That's okay. But it's like, I heard somebody say, well, you want to be rich. Rich people are greedy people. I go, like, Oprah can help a lot more people than you and I can ever help. I mean, come on. And she is. These people are role models, and it's important for us to recognize Jesus was a role model. Mm-hmm. He reached out and he made a difference, and he went through pain and torture for us, and the least that we can do is to reach out and recognize our purpose in life too. So no, but how can you not be passionate about knowing that God is real? And I mean, and you know what God's middle name is? Coincidence. When coincidences happen, they're not for, it's not coincidence. It's because Heavenly Father is, giving us miracles. And it's one of those things, I heard somebody say this. He said, look for the miracles in your life, because you're going to find what you look for, because miracles happen every day. I got a miracle. I got to be on your show. How fun was this? It's just miracles happen all the time. And some are huge miracles and some are small miracles, but they're profound. And if we look for it, we're going to recognize that miracles happen to us throughout our life.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I did say I was going to get to that one other question, because one of my co-hosts and everything oftentimes talks about, I bring it up sometimes, but he also alludes to the fact that in Canada, he doesn't feel that there is as much racial divide and there is much racism as exists in the United States. And I'm not saying that that is not the case, but I do think that there is some racism that exists in Canada. But you were there in Montreal, so I was just wondering, would you agree with him that there is no or little racism in Canada, or am I the one that is correct in that there is racism there in that country, just like there is in other parts of the world as well?
I think racism exists everywhere. However, in Montreal, we were English speaking, so we were the minority. And then Black Haitians came over here because Haiti is part of the Commonwealth and Canada was part of the Commonwealth and everything else. And there wasn't a sense of, racism towards Haitians, because Haitians were in it with us. They knew French, so they knew, if they knew French, and then they blended in and everything else. But I was fascinated, coming to America. I've been here for 37 years, but the concept of racism, I mean, it wasn't really strong for us. I mean, we understood a lot of it because there is a lot of, part of why we moved to America, there's a lot of antagonism towards people who speak English.
Right.
So I think it was less because it was more culturally. It's like in France, I don't know that there's racism everywhere. So, but there's also classism too, like I'm better than you, and all that stuff. I mean, that exists in every race, every group has that. It's annoying. But I have this friend who says, I'm smarter than everybody. It's like, I kind of look at him like, Heavenly Father, can you tell this guy, teach him, he doesn't know what he's talking about,
That's actually what I was going to bring up to Dr. Lou, because I do know that sometimes the racism can be horrible the other way as well, because I do have some friends of mine that, because of their not understanding their bosses, if their bosses were from an Asian country, they may not give them the due respect, and there can be racism even among the races, because I definitely saw some biases that existed among some of my African American men and women friends, that when they were working at an Asian company, and they might hear the Asians speaking in the different dialects, whether it's Mandarin or whatever, and they might make an assumption that is, what they say about an assumption, it's making a donkey out of you and me, and I'm just using the more pleasant word for what another word for a donkey is, and everything, because that is the belief that they're talking about you, when whether they're talking Mandarin or they're talking Cantonese or they're talking Spanish, they're probably talking about what's going on in their school's kids and what they're going to get for dinner, and it probably has nothing to do with you whatsoever. But I do know that sometimes people have these stereotypes, and it doesn't help when the global community also adds to the stereotypes. I do know there was a lot of Asian hate when it was alleged that part of the pandemic was coming from that part of the world and from China and things of that nature. And I'm not saying that that wasn't the case, but at the same time, you can't lump everybody together. I know that we do a Spanish show, and one of the things that the host of that show does is bring the different voices from different Latin communities, because some of them are Dominican, some of them are Colombian, and so they definitely have different viewpoints depending on which part of Latin America they are in. And I can say the same thing about the Asian community as well. The viewpoints of the Korean is not necessarily, well, one, which Korea you're talking about, and two, it's not going to be the same as Japan or Thailand or a number of other Asian countries. But I'm just wondering how you deal with that, because you are in Beverly Hills, and I do know that's a very diverse community, but it is also probably one where you might have even been attacked because of your Asian heritage and all of that. So I just wondering, how did you deal with that? And did you find that sometimes the minority groups were not as much of your friends as you would have liked them to be? Well, fellow minority groups. You're on mute again.
So I think the racism is a very important issue at this point in political. Also, as you said, it's pandemic. It's bringing China. Even we are not clear yet, but we thought that most is agree that from the China, there is Asian communities involving like one groups, China, Korea. There is Asian, it's many from like Philippines and Korea, and even Japan. So we are one groups become like one group, all like looks like Asians become like a China from China. So we see that all the TV and medias, even homeless populations, they are focused on those crimes, to the focus on the Asians. Even one of in I think in New York's one of ambassador, Korean ambassador, beat by homeless, because of he's Asians, from Vietnam ambassador. So, and as well as we see every TV, every moment, people, they are poking, the Asian people in the training, sit down, they go and they throw away their food, beating. So many Asian hate crimes. This is one of, really, we need to really focus on those, racism, because as I'm a pastor and, I'm a Republican candidate, so we are equal, in front of God. Is I am like we have in school like CTRs. I am black. We have CT critical theory, race problem in school early age. And I now is a teachers teaching about I'm a black. So those kind of CTR is also close legendary, as well as cancer curse. I'm a high society person. I educated. I have a wealthy, or like I have a kind of old age or educations, all the background they have, all the as well as the cancer culture, the isolation for women and men, and a lot of cancer cultures from medias, even they are supporting cancer culture right now. So although that is also closer, racism. So we, as I'm a political leader, as well as a pastor, even we need to really, as well as infrastructures. We see many infra in the rich areas. Early they solved, but we see many black areas. People they have a pipe broken, still like 3-4 years, they're not fixed, So we need a more, we need equal opportunity for infra education, even education, we see the black area, those school, college, so less the college, we gradations, as well as high school gradations, get the jobs. So we need really in politics, as I'm a politics, we have the equal society, not even white or not yellow or black, either way. So we are American. We are one body America. Not only great white community, we have the great, black, Asian and black, all the community. We need a strong, powerful support by government and schools and community and churches. So not only one place we are strong, we cannot say great America, so our political leaders should, solve those problems, racism, to, during this better, improve, reputation. Asian is so good country, called so good nations, so good country. Like Korean people, they are working hard 24/7 days. I am Korean American. When I came in immigration, we are 24 hours, 7 days, even no sleep, like enough, like never 4 day, 5 day, no sleep. We working, building America here. Two, they wanted to American come, dream come true here, get the new jobs, creations, you economic, and open new business, good education. Not only American society or Asians working, all the any race, we have equal opportunity from government, and as well as our own self. Like we need to really support those political leaders who fight for those issues. So I think the racism is no good. So we needed to equal opportunity in America. All of matters. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like I said, I'm going to end the show and everything. I do hope that both of you will come back and everything because I have thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hope y'all have enjoyed it as well. And definitely one of the things I get everybody to do, and I'll save the lady for last and everything. But if you can tell folks, Jim, how they can reach you and how they can get the copy of the Brain Glue, and definitely we'll have to have you on to talk even more about the book. We did talk about some of that to some degree, but I definitely want to get even further into the conversation, whether it's on this show or some of the other shows on the network that we have. So I do hope that you will make a return trip to the online dinner party as well as some of our other things. So if you can share how folks can reach you. And one of the things I try to get everybody to do is give a message of positivity and hope to our global community, because Nick Palveda and Kim Calhoun, who founded this network, do make sure that it is aired and not just in the United States and throughout the United States, but also in various countries around the world as well, whether they're doing that through Facebook, LinkedIn, or a number of other sources that they use as well, including Roku. But definitely, if you can tell folks how they can reach you about the website and a message of positivity. And that's the same question that I'll have Dr. Lou leave as well. And of course, I may go off camera while y'all are answering because I've got to throw on a sweater because it's a little bit chilly out there as I get ready to get to my next stop and all of that, because it's definitely been some spring-like weather here in North Carolina. But when the sun goes down, it gets a little bit on the chilly side.
Yeah, I'm from Montreal, so I can relate. So first for me, if you want to learn more about Brain Glue, go to yesbrainglueworks.com. And that gives you a whole profile of Brain Glue. I think it seems to really be blowing people's minds. We got like fantastic reviews and people find it really valuable. So yesbrainglueworks.com. And, in the motion picture industry, people in foreign countries say they used to say this all the time, that we could tell American movies from other movies. And the reason is because they have happy endings. Now, why do they have happy endings? Because we are religious, we're Christians, and Jews. And we know that regardless of what happens in our life, probably in our life, a happy ending will happen. But even if it doesn't, we know that ultimately a happy ending is going to happen. We're going to return to God and Heavenly Father and all that stuff. And so that's a signature of America. And so we know that, we see right now, so we've had hard times in COVID and all that stuff. But people are coming out of it and coming out of their shells, and we're connecting more with each other. So this is a great time to be alive, because we're not taking our faith for granted. We're not taking life for granted. And the more we can make a difference in other people's lives, the more, a greater purpose we have in our own lives. So this is a great time to be alive. Dr. Lou?
Yeah, thank you so much. Share all the, these issues, have opportunity to share my idea too. And thank you for your, great comment. And then also thank you for Mr. Lee to hosting this show. And, if you want to know more about me, I have a campaign website, www.sarahsenator.org. So you can see all my platforms, my background, and then as well as there is so many, my, companies, website listed, nonprofit. So you can know about more. Like anytime, I'm welcome to discussion about all America issues. anything I can help you, just contact me, and I'm a really appreciations to help you. Yeah.
Right. You said sarahsenator.com?
Yes, sarahsenate.org. Yeah.
.org. Okay, great.
And Dr. Bond, I've actually got to tease you because I'm actually here in the Raleigh-Durham area, which means that I definitely know about that Montreal, Canada team because the Carolina Hurricanes oftentimes will run across them and play against them and all of that. So I do know that that is one of our rivals and all in that space. Dr. Liu, the other thing that I had said that I did not hear from you is any message of positivity or hope that you want to share with folks from both South Korea, the United States, and just around the world that are listening. So any message of positivity and hope that you would like to give to our global audience?
Great. So I'm learning global like immigrations, company like global investment immigration. So I understand those immigrations, some issues. So I think the life is always there is a next level, develop. So take chance, looking for chance to your life, and then don't afraid to change it. If you decide to change it, do commitment. Not change it just automatically. You have list for commitment and follow that. The most important is voice of God. People have so many voices in the world, thousand voices. The voice of you need follow God's voice, and you need fight for God. You not fight for this is our old issue. It's God's problem. So when I decided to learning to U.S. Congress, I see the God's tears. When I'm in Beverly Hills, I I heard many homeless problem in our society. I look at the video. I meet many homeless. I weeping like many every days. So woman like me, I'm weeping for community. How about God's weeping for us? So we need to stop God's tears. So whatever we working hard, what God give you life for, this is very, you know, opportunity to you arriving, serve God, serve community, serve your country, and serve global, better country, better place to live for us and next generation. So this is our commitment, our mission to, so I think the first change yourself and the support community. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I appreciate both of you. Like I said, I do hope that both of you will return. Of course, we do have some sponsors as well that oftentimes to help with this whole process. And you asked about dessert. That's actually what I think I'm going to start off with. One of the commercials about a vegan company that is right here in Raleigh that supports some of our things. And I'm not in the vegan space and everything. Definitely enjoy some of the other dishes that are less vegan. But even you, Jim, and Dr. Lou, I think when you see these pies and some of these other things, because you were asking what's for dessert that this lady prepares, it might make you hungry. Because I know every time I play this commercial, I get very hungry looking at it. Because even though it is vegan styled, it is also looking very delicious. So I'll let y'all check that out, and maybe a couple of the other ads, including one for Adobe as well. But we're going to get on out of here. I'm gonna head over to the Cultural Arts Center that I work at. I know y'all got some other things to do in the afternoon because it's afternoon over there. It's starting to be evening here, but it's afternoon there in the West Coast. But like I said, I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation, and I hope you enjoyed it as well.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
No problem.
Hi,